Some killers don't hide in shadows. They don't lurk in alleys or shout for attention. They smile, they help, they blend in. Neighbours, co-workers, friends you trust with your life. They plan, they wait. And while the world sleeps, they kill. Without pattern, without remorse, without warning. Today, we reveal 5 men who vanished into normal life while committing horrors most of us can't imagine. Warning: the following video discusses real-life crimes and disturbing events. Viewer discretion is advised. Some content may be unsettling for sensitive audiences. Israel Keyes was a predator who moved through the world like any ordinary man. A man whose ordinary face masked a darkness that spanned decades, crossing state lines, leaving barely a trace. How could someone so ordinary harbor such a meticulous capacity for violence? Born in 1978 in Utah, Keyes grew up isolated, the second of 10 children, living on a remote plot in Washington. No electricity, no running water, no normal childhood. His father's strict and possibly abusive rule shaped a boy who learnt to survive alone, hunting his own food, chopping wood, living off the land. It was survivalism, but also a training ground for a mind that would later take life without conscience. How does isolation shape a mind? And when does it tip into obsession? From an early age, Keyes was different. Towering over peers by his teens, he hunted anything with a heartbeat, tortured animals, stole guns, and set fires. Witnesses recall a boy whose very presence made their skin crawl. In private journals, he chronicled daily sins and desires that would later manifest into acts that shocked investigators. How much of our darkest impulses are born of nature, and how much are learnt from circumstance? By his late teens, Keyes' life shifted. Military service took him overseas, where he tested boundaries and honed his skills in observation and control. But it was after discharge that his true pattern emerged. He began targeting strangers with precision, carefully planning abductions and killings, traveling across the United States to commit crimes, and vanishing without a trace. He buried caches of weapons, tools, and money in advance, ready for his next move. This was strategy, patience, obsession. Keyes' confirmed victims were few, but brutal. In Vermont, he abducted and killed a couple, using a kit he had hidden years earlier. In Alaska, he kidnapped a young worker, taking her life in a meticulously planned sequence. Beyond these, Keyes hinted at countless others, and authorities suspect he claimed far fewer than he actually killed. His victims were random, ordinary strangers, chosen not for motive, but opportunity. How can a mind operate with such cold calculation, yet appear so ordinary to the world? He was a student of evil. Keyes studied other serial killers, idolizing their cunning and meticulousness, particularly Ted Bundy. But unlike those who sought attention, Keyes avoided headlines. He craved control, anonymity, and mastery over life and death. Even in custody, he revealed only fragments of his crimes, leaving investigators haunted by the unknown. How many lives can one person steal without leaving a visible trail? And how many stories will never be told? Keyes' capture in 2012 came almost by accident. A minor traffic stop ended his years of freedom and allowed authorities to piece together a web of meticulously concealed crimes. But even then, the man who had eluded justice for years would not reveal everything. His time behind bars ended in suicide, a final act of control, leaving journals, drawings of 11 skulls, and a cryptic phrase, "We are one." A chilling testament to the scale of his darkness and a lingering question of the lives lost to someone who vanished into ordinary life while committing unimaginable horrors. Israel Keyes was ordinary in appearance, yet extraordinary in his capacity for manipulation and secrecy. He moved unseen, striking at random, and leaving questions that may never be answered. How many walked past him on the street, never knowing what he had done or what he was capable of? By the time the truth emerged, it was already too late. Lonnie David Franklin Jr., known to the world as the Grim Sleeper, was a man whose quiet existence in south-central Los Angeles masked a reign of terror that lasted decades. How does a seemingly ordinary neighbor, a father, a familiar face in the streets, become a predator who strikes without warning, leaving families haunted and communities in fear? Born in 1952, Franklin's early life gave few clues to the darkness that would follow. A stint in the United States Army ended in disgrace after a violent crime overseas, leaving a record of kidnapping and assault. He returned home, discharged dishonorably, but the shadows of his past seemed only to deepen. How much evil is formed in youth, and how much can lie dormant, waiting for the perfect opportunity? By the mid-1980s, the streets of Los Angeles were already under siege by a series of killings targeting black women, many of whom were vulnerable, often sex workers or struggling with addiction. The LAPD's investigation initially grouped these murders under the name Southside Slayer, believing a single individual was responsible. But conflicting details, differing methods, and multiple potential suspects obscured the truth. Could the failure to recognize patterns in real time allow a predator to move unchecked for years? Franklin's murders stood out for their chilling regularity. Victims were shot at close range with a .25 caliber firearm, often found in alleys or deserted streets, far from the public eye. One after another, these killings went unnoticed by many in the wider city, yet the pain left behind was profound. From Deborah Jackson in 1985 to the final confirmed murder in 2007, Franklin struck in a rhythm that seemed to vanish for years, earning him the nickname Grim Sleeper. 14 years appeared to pass without a single crime, but investigators later revealed the gap may have been an illusion, concealing more victims than the world would ever know. Franklin was a meticulous record keeper. Over 1,000 photographs and hundreds of hours of video were discovered in his home, images capturing women of all ages, often vulnerable, some unaware of the presence of a camera. Each image told a story, a fragment of the terror he inflicted quietly, systematically, over decades. How could someone live among us, documenting horror, yet remain invisible to those around him? It was advances in DNA technology that finally unraveled his web. Familial DNA linked him to his son, and a discarded pizza crust confirmed what investigators had long suspected. Franklin was the Grim Sleeper. Arrested in 2010, he faced charges for 10 murders and 1 attempted murder. But even in custody, the full scope of his crimes remained unknown. Authorities suspected additional victims, hidden in plain sight, their identities perhaps never to be revealed. Franklin's trial revealed more than just a serial killer's methods. It exposed systemic failures, the decades-long inattention to murders in marginalized communities, the silences of city officials, and the tenacity of activists who demanded justice for women, too often ignored. Survivors and families bore witness to both his crimes and the world's indifference, asking themselves a haunting question: how many others suffered while the city looked elsewhere? In 2016, a Los Angeles jury convicted Franklin of 10 murders, sentencing him to death. Yet the grim sleeper's story did not end in a courtroom. In March 2020, Franklin was found dead in his cell at San Quentin State Prison. No cause was ever publicly revealed. The man who haunted the streets for over 2 decades was gone, leaving only questions, fear, and the echoes of the lives he destroyed. Lonnie Franklin's legacy is not just the victims, the unsolved cases, or the gruesome photographs. It is the chilling reminder that evil can hide in plain sight, that the ordinary faces we pass daily may conceal unimaginable darkness. How do communities recover from such a predator? And what measures could have prevented decades of pain and loss? If these chilling stories have you hooked, make sure you hit that subscribe button and join the Murk Files community. Don't miss out. Our next episodes will uncover even more secrets lurking behind closed doors, and you'll want to be here for every story we reveal. Charles Edmund Cullen, a name that evokes disbelief, a man sworn to save lives, a nurse entrusted with the most vulnerable, yet responsible for a trail of death spanning over 16 years. How does someone devoted to healing become an angel of death? And why did it take so long for anyone to notice? Born in 1960 in West Orange, New Jersey, Cullen's early life was marked by loss and hardship. His father died when he was just 7 months old, leaving a large family to navigate poverty and struggle. He described his childhood as miserable, haunted by bullying and isolation. A young mind, grappling with trauma, may twist in ways no one sees. Could these early wounds foreshadow the horrors he would later commit? Cullen sought order and discipline in the Navy, serving aboard the USS Woodrow Wilson. Yet even there, he felt out of place, ostracized, and bullied. He exhibited strange behaviors, like showing up to work at the missile controls in surgical attire, as if trying to inhabit a role that only he understood. Reassigned, he attempted suicide multiple times, and by 1984, he was discharged, carrying unresolved darkness with him. By 1987, Cullen became a nurse, starting at St. Barnabas Medical Center. It was here that the first of many patients met mysterious deaths, overdoses of digoxin, insulin, or other medications. Cullen would move from hospital to hospital, often leaving as suspicion grew, yet never facing accountability. Over and over, he infiltrated wards of the sick and fragile, undetected. Do we trust too easily in systems that promise safety? Cullen's pattern was both chilling and calculated. He would target patients, often those whose lives were at risk, though not always terminal. Some were improving and expected to recover, yet Cullen intervened with lethal injections. The hospitals rarely questioned the deaths. Administrators feared lawsuits, peers were hesitant, and the law provided little enforcement. In some cases, he was even rewarded for his work. How many lives were lost because protocol and oversight failed to protect the most vulnerable? By 2003, Cullen's trail could no longer be ignored. Suspicious overdoses at Somerset Medical Center exposed a pattern too blatant to dismiss. Arrested in December, Cullen confessed to at least 40 murders, though investigators suspect the true number may be far higher, possibly hundreds. For 16 years, he had walked unnoticed among the sick, trusted to save lives, while secretly choosing which patients would survive. Cullen's motivations were complex and disturbing. He claimed he wanted to spare patients from suffering or prevent the chaos of a code blue emergency. But in reality, many victims were stable, on the mend, and oblivious to the danger lurking in the hands of the man caring for them. His crimes were impulsive, yet executed with a calm precision that left hospitals blind to the pattern until too late. How can we reconcile such selective cruelty with the very oath meant to preserve life? Sentenced in 2006 to 18 consecutive life terms, without parole in New Jersey and additional life sentences in Pennsylvania, Cullen will never walk free. Yet the damage he inflicted reverberates through the families of his victims, hospitals, and the medical system itself. In a strange twist, Cullen even donated a kidney to save a young boy, raising unsettling questions about the nature of redemption and the human capacity for contradiction. His case prompted reform. States across the U.S., including New Jersey and Pennsylvania, implemented new laws to improve hospital accountability and protect patients, ensuring employee histories and suspicious deaths are scrutinized more rigorously. Cullen's shadow forced a reckoning. Systems must be vigilant, because sometimes the monster wears scrubs. Charles Cullen's story is a haunting reminder that evil can exist where we least expect it, in places meant to heal, in hands we trust. How many lives could have been spared, and how many more might suffer when trust is exploited? In the end, Cullen's legacy is not just the lives he ended, but the system he exposed and the lessons that continue to protect the living from the angel of death, who hid in plain sight. In the shadows of New York and New Jersey, a name would emerge that terrified the communities he haunted: Richard Francis Cottingham. Born in 1946 in the Bronx, Cottingham was the first of 4 children. A quiet, unassuming teenager, he excelled in track and cross country, yet behind the polite facade lurked a fascination that would later take a dark and violent turn. From a young age, he was drawn to imagery of restraint and control, interests that would eventually merge with his growing obsession with young women. After high school, Cottingham took a job at Metropolitan Life Insurance, where his father worked as a vice president. Later, he moved to Blue Cross Blue Shield, becoming a computer operator. To colleagues, he seemed ordinary, quiet, polite, and professional. In 1970, he married and fathered 3 children, creating a picture-perfect family life. But beneath the surface, Cottingham's desires grew more dangerous, and early brushes with the law, minor theft, a DUI, and dismissed assault charges hinted at the predator he was becoming. Throughout the 1970s, Cottingham targeted young women, many in vulnerable positions. He would approach them in bars, on streets, or even at malls, offering rides or companionship. Once alone, he restrained and terrorized them, leaving lasting trauma. In 1980, 18-year-old Leslie Ann Odell survived one such attack. She recalled how Cottingham restrained her with handcuffs, threatened her with knives, and subjected her to cruel treatment, telling her she had to endure what others had. Her screams ultimately drew the attention of motel staff and led to his arrest, revealing a cache of disturbing items: leather gags, slave collars, replica firearms, knives, and prescription drugs. Yet this arrest was only the beginning. Cottingham's actions spanned decades, leaving a trail of harm across New York, New Jersey, and beyond. Young women disappeared, only to be found later in secluded areas, restrained and severely injured. From the 1967 disappearance of 17-year-old Mary Ann de la Sala to the 1969 attacks on Jacqueline Harp and Denise Velasca, a consistent pattern emerges: lure, control, and inflict extreme harm. By the mid-1970s, his actions escalated. Diane Cusick was discovered in her car, restrained and seriously injured. Mary Ann Carr and Valerie Street were left in motels, restrained, injured, and displaying marks of prolonged suffering. Didi Gudazi, an Iranian immigrant, endured days of confinement and abuse before being discovered in a Manhattan motel, her body bearing clear signs of torment. In New Jersey, young women like Lorraine Marie Kelly and Mary Ann Pryor were found bound together, beaten, and left in wooded areas, their injuries revealing the terrifying extent of Cottingham's cruelty. Cottingham's ability to evade capture for years left law enforcement struggling to connect the dots. For decades, he denied responsibility, insisting he had been framed until a Bergen County detective, Robert Anzelotti, reopened cold cases in the early 2000s. Through careful interviews and persistent investigation, Cottingham admitted to attacks dating back to 1965, including the case of 18-year-old Alice Eberhardt and several others, providing clarity to decades-old mysteries. By the time he was fully convicted, Cottingham had admitted to dozens of assaults spanning multiple states, leaving a legacy of fear and unanswered questions. He often spoke of perfect crimes, reflecting a chilling detachment from the human suffering he caused. Today, multiple life sentences keep him confined, yet the echoes of his actions continue to haunt the neighborhoods he once stalked. Richard Cottingham's story serves as a grim reminder that darkness often hides behind ordinary faces. The ordinary man at a desk, the husband and father, could also be the orchestrator of prolonged torment. His life forces us to confront the unsettling truth that monsters often live among us unnoticed, leaving lasting scars on those they encounter. As we reach the final chapter in this series of America's most notorious serial killers, one name stands out for the sheer cunning and audacity of his crimes. In the late 1970s, a man with a charming smile and an uncanny ability to blend in moved through the shadows of New York and California, leaving fear and unanswered questions in his wake. Rodney James Alcala, born in 1943 in San Antonio, Texas, seemed ordinary at first, a bright student, athletic, and academically gifted. Yet beneath the polished exterior hid a manipulative and dangerous mind, one that would eventually claim the lives of multiple young women and girls. At just 17, Alcala joined the United States Army as a paratrooper. While serving, he showed early signs of manipulative and violent behavior, assaulting women and acting insubordinate. Diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder after a nervous breakdown, he was discharged from the Army. Experts would later describe him as exhibiting traits of narcissistic personality disorder and psychopathy, with a disturbing pattern of sexual sadism. After his military service, Alcala pursued studies at UCLA, presenting himself as a charming and ambitious young man. Yet his criminal tendencies were escalating. In 1968, he lured an 8-year-old girl, Tali Shapiro, into his apartment, where she was brutally attacked and left in a coma for over a month. Despite this, Alcala avoided long-term incarceration and was paroled, setting the stage for an even more violent spree. In the 1970s, Alcala's crimes expanded across multiple states. In New York, he murdered Cornelia Crilly, a flight attendant, and in California, he began a string of murders that would eventually earn him the nickname the Dating Game Killer, after appearing on the popular television show in 1978 while actively committing his crimes. He lured women under the guise of photography, building trust before assaulting and killing them. Alcala's victims included women and teenage girls whose lives were tragically ended. Jill Barcombe, Georgia Wickstead, Charlotte Lamb, Jill Parenteau, and Robin Samso were just a few of the individuals he targeted. Many were arranged after death, photographed, and left in locations that suggested both control and a disturbing sense of planning. One survivor, 15-year-old Monique Hoyt, escaped after Alcala attacked her in 1979, providing crucial testimony that led to his arrest. Despite repeated arrests and convictions, Alcala's manipulative nature extended even to the courtroom. During his third trial, in 2010, he acted as his own attorney, questioning himself and attempting to distract the jury from the mounting DNA evidence. Nevertheless, the jury found him guilty of 5 counts of first-degree homicide, and he was sentenced to death. His actions were later linked to additional individuals through photographs and DNA evidence, revealing a chilling pattern of behavior that spanned decades. Even after conviction, Alcala's past continued to come to light. Investigators identified numerous photographs of women and children, some of whom may have been additional targets, though their identities remain unknown. Following his death in 2021 at age 77, while on California's death row, more alleged survivors came forward, recounting attacks decades earlier. Rodney Alcala's life serves as a stark reminder that evil often hides behind ordinary appearances. Charming, intelligent, and seemingly normal, he was capable of unimaginable cruelty. His story is not just about the lives he ended, but also the psychological manipulation, the missed warnings, and the lasting trauma he left behind. In the end, his death may have closed the chapter on his life, but the shadow of his actions continues to haunt the memories of those who survived and those who did not. From Israel Keyes to Lonnie Franklin, Charles Cullen, Richard Cottingham, and finally Rodney Alcala, these 5 killers show how evil can hide behind ordinary faces. Their crimes shock, disturb, and remind us that darkness can lurk anywhere. If these chilling tales resonate with you, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Comment your thoughts below, share this story with your friends, and explore the other videos and playlists on our channel. Stay curious, stay safe,